Welcome back, everybody. My name is Chad Wilson from Simple Cloudware, and today we're going to be talking about account verification in an Azure function. Keep your head in the cloud. Why is account verification so important? Well, it gives you the ability to create a login screen, which is a foundational piece of your software. Let's continue. All right, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to copy this endpoint as kind of a structure of creating our new endpoint for verifying our login. So we're going to first update the function name and the router, and then we're going to move on to the actual call to the API. And so let's clean up some of this stuff here. Get this out of the way. We don't need that anymore. And so let's take our first parameter here, the token, and let's grab our login. And make sure when we're dealing with these magic strings that you have everything perfectly lined up, because they won't show you an error, but they will give you heartburn if you have them wrong. And now let's add the key value pair for login. This is our parameter list that we convert into a URL. Okay, now we have login, and now let's go and create let's get this paren in here. And let's also do a check to make sure that our parameters that we're passing in are not empty. So we'll just do a null check on each one of these and then return to the user some information so they can check to make sure what they're passing is valid. Okay, now let's grab this and create the password key value pair. I'm just continuing on with our pattern. And the one thing you want to be mindful of when creating these key value pairs is these are the parameters that need to be accepted by the API and their value. So you want to make sure that they match up. Let's convert this to a get call. So we're still expecting a body. And then of course, let's convert our response model to account, which is what is being returned from the API. Okay, I think we're set. Let's also get a breakpoint up here for get token, just so we can make sure that we have connectivity. And then we'll just grab that endpoint because we'll be starting here. And then we're just going to let it run. It's going to bring up the emulator for the functions. And then we can see we have our 6 or 7 functions here. And we can just bring up a browser, or we could also do this in Postman. I think for just simplicity's sake, we'll use the browser this time. Maybe next time, or when we have a post, we'll get into creating these in Postman. So we did our first one, and we can see that we're into our endpoint, and everything seems to be moving right along. This is mostly just to check to make sure we've got connectivity. Okay, so we got our okay, so we're looking good. And now that we have our token, we can move on to the verification. So we'll just use this root URL and then switch this to verify login. All right. And then we've got the parameters that it's expecting that we can just include here. We've got login, and we created this email in the video in which we created accounts, so we can use this Simple Cloudware Verify login email, which then just has a generic pass 701 for the password. Alright, so we just get this in here, careful not to misspell anything. And then we can put our token right here. So you just go over here and grab it. Make sure to be careful and not include extra characters. Put that in there, good. Alright, so now we're making the call, we're coming in here. Let's just make sure that we've got values being brought in. It looks like we're doing good. Alright, so let's check this out. Alright, so we have a good call, which is bringing back our accounts model, which means that we are successfully able to use these parameters to log into the system. So that's good. So the next thing we need to do is replicate this in Azure. So let's just close out here and come over here and publish this. Okay. And for the publishing setup, that was actually in the initial connection video that we actually set up this function in Azure App Services, and so I'll link that below. Okay, looks good. Just zipping this up and sending this up into App Services. It usually just takes a couple minutes for something this small. There it goes. Cool, so we can use the URL that is provided each time in the summary. And let's start constructing this URL, which is a little bit different than calling it locally. So let's just get into this. And the one thing that is absolutely essential when calling a function online is to make sure that you have the code that goes along with the function. Each function has its own code, or you can use a generic set for the entire function. So let's go over here and grab the code. Alright, here's a function in our app services. I just have to wait for it to load in. Okay. And here you can see that there are function keys, which are part of for individual endpoints. And we can demonstrate this. Okay, so you can see here how an individual key will work just for this particular endpoint. We can just grab this token and throw it in our new call. Perfect. And then let's demonstrate how we can use the generic keys, where it says host keys for all functions. We'll copy this bad boy and we'll use that to connect to our verify login. So we'll just remove this code that's here and we'll post this in, so we're demonstrating both of the different types of codes. And you see we've got in Azure a response. So we're successfully able to verify an account. Congratulations, you have now created account verification in an Azure function. This is going to be foundational for the creation of your application. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to join the community. And please click the thumbs up so people just like you can find this video. Comments, suggestions, questions, please enter them below. And remember, keep your head in the clouds.